Saka, 1-0. Unbelievable.
And this is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can bot me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. That's right. If you are listening or watching this on YouTube, by the way, you will not have heard the joy or the cringe, your mileage may vary, that just preceded this moment. But you can always go to Spotify or Apple and listen to it. But this is the Joycast. This is the Eze cast. Eze 10. I haven't put a name on the back of a shirt in a while. And I'm an old man and I'm not supposed to do it, but we can all be young at heart, and I may indeed need to do it. There's a lot to get to today. We're going to laugh at Tottenham. We're going to celebrate what Eze can bring to the squad, talk about where it leaves our window. We will get to the Kai Havertz injury news and what that means for the squad as well. We might touch on Leeds a bit, the Leo wage rise, whether the window is indeed now shut for Arsenal or should we get greedy and dream for more. So all of that is coming. Tomorrow there will be a Friday Night Clive, and Friday Night Clive as a special. We'll have clips, so we'll kind of make it a bit of a scouting session and a bit of a wine-consuming session, as it always is for Clive. On the Friday Night Clive, we got to keep it real, let's be honest. So that's going to be out then. He's not available today. Neither is Tim, although Tim and I did a pod yesterday that deep dives into the Kai Havertz injury news and the Leo wage rise. And you say, that's a weird thing to do yesterday. It's because we recorded before any of the Eze stuff broke. So we're just going to talk about how yesterday went nuts. But we'd love to have you over on Patreon. You can catch the instant reaction from the 10-0 on Saturday when that comes out. All you got to do is use code AVP50. You get 50% off your first month. It's a couple of quid. You get a pod pretty much every single day. Even did a bonus transfer daily yesterday just because I had to, because we're going to sign Eze from Tottenham. So here to discuss those exciting developments with me is Paul. Hello.
Woohoo!
And Phil. Hello, Phil Costa.
Hello, Elliot. How we doing?
Good. Okay, let's start with this. Let's just start with the day. Because there are certain days that you will always kind of remember as a fan, and most of them are obviously around big matches. But for days, Arsenal days that don't involve playing any football, this one's in the pantheon for me in terms of weirdness and emotional highs and lows. It starts with the Kai news. There's this low ebb moment where you start to realize, like, if anything happens to Gyökeres, we're back to Marino at striker. And, you know, maybe we find some bargain basement, bottom of the barrel kind of thing, like Sterling on loan. Wink, wink, Tottenham. You can probably pull that one off. Enjoy the Sterling on loan, Tottenham. It's a fun experience. But then the Oran bomb comes out, and the whole day is stood on its head. And suddenly the memes and the clips, you know, Google, how do I find Spurs social media accounts? You know, like, you're looking for all of it. So Phil, talk me through your experience of the day. My WhatsApp probably never been that busy. My phone was hot to the touch. What was going on for you?
Yeah, it was one of those days, wasn't it, where I was actually recording one of my podcasts as well in the morning, chatting to Sam Ty on the Football Vision pod. We were talking about, where do Arsenal go from here? Do they sign a left winger? Do they sign a striker? You know, how do they replace Kai Havertz if he's out for a significant amount of time? And then all of a sudden, it was just, you know, a lot of misery, a lot of, why can't Arsenal have a single week of peace without having to complain or face injury or find an issue with anything? It just felt like already in week 2, we were already having to deal with stuff. And then there was a certain wording on the David Ornstein tweet that said Arsenal exploring options in the market, which first of all sounded bad from a Havertz perspective, because usually if it was like a month or 6 weeks, Arsenal might have been a bit more relaxed about doing that. But then your mind goes to, could it be a 6-month injury? Could it be a season-ending injury? But also there was a slight bit of excitement in the back of my mind because Arsenal are not usually proactive unless they need to be. And I think we saw yesterday that they were very proactive. All of a sudden, was out for dinner with my dad and a couple of other family members yesterday. David Ornstein tweets, right, what's going on here? Arsenal in February, Eze, player wants them, Tottenham pursuing other targets, and then it just went boom. Phone was pinging, socials were pinging, Discord were pinging, and it was just a really, really fun day. And it's one of those where transfers are so over reported on now. We get every single step along the way, fees, add-ons, player jets, where they're landing, when they're going. But this one was just a bit out of the blue, and it was great. And, you know, we'll get onto it later and what the deal means and why it's a fun signing. But it's just a day where you think, not only do I love the player, but the fact that we've managed to snatch him from our rivals in what was a supposed one-horse race just makes it even better. And it was really, really fun to be around yesterday.
The historic tweet. The great thing about football is that no matter what happens, somehow the joke is always on Tottenham. And when you think about our two most important signings of the summer prior to this, one of them was done in January, basically, in Zubamendi. So no real excitement over that. The other one, Gyökeres, had gone past excitement into frustration. You know what I mean? Of why can't we get it over the line? So by the time it happened, it was more relief, and it was fun to see him unveiled at Singapore, but we knew it was happening. This had so many components to it, to the perfect alchemy for joy. Total shock off the heels of really bad news that had us down. Stealing him from our rival and having no idea this was possible, having given up hope on the very guy we probably most wanted from a vibe standpoint. Whatever your position on the player from a tactical or squad fit standpoint, there's no one who can debate the vibes of this. The player is reportedly an Arsenal fan, and I believe that based on video and interview stuff I've seen going around and old tweets that he posted. There's a video of him when he was, I think, QPR, started talking about why he's an Arsenal fan and the dream of Arsenal. He had been at Arsenal before he was released. This is a homecoming. We've already broken shirt sales records with Gyökeres. I promise you, Eze 10, as the kids say, is going to bang. Like, it's going to go nuts, okay? The armory is going to be absolutely awash. If they announce it before the game on Saturday and you're planning to go to the Emirates for the Leeds game, you're going to want to get to the armory at like 6 a.m. or something, because it's going to be a line around the world to get that shirt. And it's pure, unadulterated joy. And look, I've been saying on this podcast I would like Eberechi Eze for a couple of years now, and it's so weird because I feel like I manifested this because it started as a very left field sort of arbitrary thing. I just really like the player. And what it reminds me of a little bit is Aubameyang, another player I went on and on about, really liked, then sort of gave up on the idea it could happen. Then kind of got him at a time when I wasn't expecting it, right? We'd already just bought Lacazette, and it was maybe a little later in his career than I would have liked, but with plenty of good years left. He gave us 2 golden boots. He won us FA Cup. Like, all in all, pretty successful. The less said about the end, the better. This feels very similar to me. A player I wanted, I'd given up on. Now we get him. We get him away from Tottenham. And Paul, setting the schadenfreude of this aside, because it is a wonderful part of it, and the best way to consume the schadenfreude is just go to Spurs content creators and watch the videos or listen to the pods the day before this happened, talking about where he fits into their squad and how big this is, and then the day it happened, and the shift is beautiful. But what's your just instant reaction psychologically to the importance of this signing and how you felt about it as you were consuming this news happening in real time?
Well, I have to put the Schadenfreude aside. I'm not sure I'm ready.
Bring the both.
Not sure.
They're all woven
sure
together.
I'm ready for that. Well, I probably did it in reverse order to the way you're supposed to do it, but I kept the spoiler alert till the end. I was listening to podcasts towards my end of the day yesterday. I was pretty busy, so I kind of hadn't quite caught up with the news, and I'm listening to the Athletic podcast, and I've just found out about the Eberechi Eze news, and I'm listening to it in the tournament. I'm like, do they know? And they didn't seem to know. It was the one just before they knew, and they were talking about Tottenham. And I'm like, this could be written as if they did know. It was so tongue-in-cheek. It was like, Tottenham are in a one-horse race for Eberechi Eze, and then it was the one Kai Havertz on, and they're having a bit of a chuckle about only Tottenham could lose a one-horse race. And like, this is before the news. And I'm like, oh, it was glorious. I listened to it. Yes, Tottenham have lost a one-horse race. They once lost came third in a 2-horse race. They've come second in a 1-horse race. They've paid for his Uber to Arsenal. I think the club should do a promotional thing where Eze is driving to work in the morning, and he comes to the junction and he can turn left where it's grey and people are walking with their shoulders down and sit down the Seven Sisters, or he could turn right to where he really wants, and it's all light and bright colours.
It's
people
the
are walking
Simpsons
with
River meme, right? It's like down one side it's all like thorns and danger and horror, and down the other side it's all just sunny and beautiful.
We just, probably the week and the weekend before, we've been talking about, it was such a feel-good vibe story with Eze, but it's not, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's like, what's better than a feel-good vibe story? Well, a double feel-good vibe story where you Sol Campbell the sucker, and it's fantastic. I've fallen into conspiracy theories a little bit because of YouTube. It keeps putting stuff in front of me, and I'm like, the club really ought to have. They could have like constructed this, right? They knew they had Eze. They knew they wanted Eze, but maybe they came to the point where they knew they definitely wanted him. They could have constructed this where they asked Eberechi to kind of play the game, and then at the last moment we'll do the old switcheroo, and everything's bright and wonderful for the club. It was beautifully constructed, even if that's not how it played out.
Yeah, in my dream, we actually always knew we were going to get him.
Yeah.
But we had to deal with Palace and Eze to let Spurs think they were going to get him first, just to maximize the joy of it. Yeah. Phil, the way this deal came together, though, I mean, it is funny, obviously, but there's also a question about the timing of it. I know it's reported that the Kai Havertz injury sort of accelerated this deal and created the urgency for us to do it. I find that a little bit difficult to understand. I mean, first of all, it's not a like-for-like Kai replacement in any regard. I don't think we'll see Eberechi as a play striker for Arsenal. So this is a position I think we needed to address. We'll talk about the position fit in a moment. I don't want to get to that just yet because I think that's really the meat of the conversation in some ways. But what do you make of the deal itself, the extent to which maybe we were more serious about this regardless of the Kai Havertz injury than anyone thinks, that we weren't prepared to let him go to Spurs, that maybe this reflects we had gotten to the absolute last moment of exploring other options like a Rodrigo or something like that and determined that this was the deal that could get done? Because I don't personally really believe that this is a reaction to the Kai Havertz injury. And in a way, I'd rather not believe that. I'd rather believe that we had a plan for strengthening the squad appropriate as opposed to a left turn to an 8 or a 10 or whatever you want to call him in the wake of the Kai Havertz injury. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I don't think it's a direct reaction to the Havertz news, but I think it may have been accelerated by it. And we've laughed and we've joked about how there might have been some play going on behind the scenes with us and Spurs and letting them do all the legwork, but it's a perfectly reasonable negotiation tactic, and it's basically what Manchester United did with Newcastle when they were both going for Šeško. You know, Newcastle agreed the fee. Man United were not really involved at that time, but they got the go-ahead from the player, and then they knew more or less how much they had to pay RB Leipzig, and then they ended up getting him. So it's quite clear and obvious that we were talking to Eze throughout the summer, talking to his people, maintaining contact. But for whatever reason, maybe it was linked to Ethan signing a new deal, that it didn't happen right away. But always the reporting was that Eze was not being viewed as a wide option. You know, that Arsenal view him as a central player, that it would have been separate to any wide players coming in. And when you think about it, we've signed Gyökeres, we've signed Madueke, and now Eze's coming in as a third forwardy type player. So what Ornstein was saying earlier on in the summer has ended up becoming true. But I always think that this was just bubbling away in the background and we were waiting for the moment to do it, because even when it was being reported that Eze had given his yes to Spurs, that Palace were agreeing a deal with Tottenham, there never seemed to be a speed at which those negotiations were happening. And I know Daniel Levy is very difficult when it comes to negotiating and finding the best possible deal for Spurs all the time. But the longer it went on, the more doubtful I was getting about this happening, because Maddison had been injured 3 weeks ago, right? So if you need someone in and you know that there's potential competition for this player, you try and get it done quickly. But it was just going on and on and on. And then it was talk about the payment structure, and then it was about the release clause. And then, you know, little things like that were just leaving me in a bit of doubt. And then obviously, even though most of the reporting had been towards Spurs and for Spurs being the only club interested, I think Arsenal were always there in the background, just maybe waiting for their moment to pounce. And whether that was accelerated by Havertz, whether that was because of Havertz, I don't know. But I don't think it was just 0 to 100 as it felt. You know, I think there was always some level of interest because we liked the player and we'd been linked with him earlier on this summer. So it was just very funny. Very, very funny. The fact that they had all that time to get it over the line, having already paid the release clause of Morgan Gibbs White and still not managing to sign him, it's just unbelievably Spursy, isn't it? And I wish I was on the Arsenal social team, because the amount of brainstorming and layups and tap-ins that they've got for this announcement video is just off the charts.
I saw a great social media post from a Spurs supporter. It's a quote post, right? So the original post is, in wake of Eze news and Savinho news, Spurs looking to pivot, exploring price and availability of Tyler Dibbling. And the quote is just, hey guys, what's a good Premier League club to support? It's just done. Can you imagine, like, a few days ago, they're like, we're getting Savinho, we're getting Eze.
They won the Europa League.
Yeah.
Don't you know that?
Yeah, they're champions of Europa. And they can't get anyone. And it's like they were going to get Savinho, which meant that we were going to lose out on Rodrigo to City. And they were going to get Eze, the guy that we all wanted. I saw a great video of them before this news broke talking about, we're going to consume all the Arsenal content when Eze signs. This is going to be a tough one for Arsenal fans to take. This is not quite Sol Campbell, but it's in that genre. And yeah, so now they're looking at Tyler Dibbling. So know your place, Spurs. Know your place.
Yeah, someone said that we have the best compilation makers, and they were saying, thank you, Arsenal, for making the best Eze comps. And it's like, you're welcome, guys. We'll take those back off you. Yeah.
What is it? Can I request that same favor again, sir?
Yeah. Salam, brother. Yeah.
Salam, brother.
Unfortunately, Arsenal haven't done any for Tyler Dibbling, so I don't know what they're going to do over there for content.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is what it is. But Paul, I think we should get into the Arsenal of it and what he means. And I saw some data going around about him, and I thought this was really interesting. So I'll sort of read this out, but it was a chart showing the direct offensive contribution, shots plus key passes. So shots plus passes leading to a shot. The leaders per 100 touches, I should say, right? So it's not per 90, it's per 100 touches. In other words, every time you touch the ball, what's the likelihood that you're going to either take a shot or create a shot? Number 1 in the league, Bukayo Saka. Number 2, Mohamed Salah. Number 3, Nani Madueke. Number 4, Cole Palmer. Number 5, Eberechi Eze. So of those top 5, Saka, Madueke, Eze, now all at Arsenal. And for a club that needs more creativity to create shots and just more shots, period, Eze is if you'll allow it, shot in the arm. Exactly what we need. And I just think, I also would love a penny for Eze's thoughts, the Arsenal fan who thought he was coming home to Arsenal, who then thought he went to Spurs, and it just reminds me of the famous Angel Di Maria quote, it hurts when you're always doing your best, and then you hear you might be going to Spurs. Well, I'm here to tell you, Eberechi, you're not going to Spurs. You're going to the Arsenal. And so let's get into it, Paul. Where does he play? What do you see as the role for Eberechi Eze? Both in terms of what he provides for us, but specifically where he fits into the squad. Where will he play?
Yeah, so I don't really know. I do find him a little confusing. I can understand why we were kind of will we, won't we. He's not an paint on his boots winger. You don't keep him wide left. He's kind of maybe
they use chalk, or do they use paint? Is it paint now?
Chalk on the boots. Yeah.
Chalk on the boots, yeah.
Look, do you want that white line to stay there, or do you want to have to lay down a new line every week when you send the team out?
That's a good point. If you do it with chalk, then you get one of those players who does a celebration where they get on their hands and knees and try to snort the line. Who was the player who did that?
Robbie Fowler.
Robbie Fowler, yeah. That's right. Good memory. Okay,
Can I
go
get
ahead?
back to my analysis here,
Yeah,
Elliot?
please, yeah.
So, I do think he's that tweeny player, like Trossard is, between the winger and the left eight. You don't leave him in the left eight spot. He's going to drift in and out between those two channels, which is bloody great if you have the right players around him. Gyökeres likes to peel left. Eze is really comfortable about kind of tearing up the map, moving around. I think they're going to have a lot of fun over on that side, moving, finding each other. So one of the really interesting things on this aforementioned athletic pod, which is really worth going back to, even if it hasn't quite got the Eberechi Eze news at that point, is it talking about counter-attacks or transitions and how that's really become a thing in the Premier League, more so now even than the Bundesliga. I don't need to tell you that, Phil. You're into all of this stuff, but that's a thing now. And we don't have a lot of them, and Liverpool have loads of them, and it seems to be somewhat where the game has gone now, and we actually did pretty well in terms of scoring goals off counters or transitions last season. We just didn't have a lot of them. And so that's, I think, a huge part of where I see his value. Over and above, we have them pinned down. We don't want to have the semicircle problem, the kind of semicircle of death. Yes, he's going to help with that because he's dangerous. He takes risks. He's 1v1. He's unpredictable. He's got his head up. He's looking for combinations. That's one part of it. But I think the transition football, like, what did we see against United? And like United, you know, my pancake analogy, I'm all for throwing away the first pancake. That's the first pancake of the season. Yeah, sorry, Elliot.
Bingo.
I'd absolutely throw. Yeah, I would absolutely throw that pancake to the dog. Let him have the pancake. I think that's a game you just don't analyze. I mean, if that's how we're playing in 3 games' time, Lordy, we're going to need help. But we're not going to be playing like that. But what you could see in that game was a whole bunch of transitions that we did nothing with. And I think as somebody finding Gyökeres, I think him, Odegaard, and Gyökeres on the transition will be a sight to be seen and would terrify me if I were the opponent. There's my contribution.
No, see, that is absolutely right. I mean, if you want to take anything away from the United game, Clive and I did a rewatch, but we did the rewatch with an emphasis just on transition opportunities and the number of transition opportunities that did not result in the right ball being played, the right run being played. I think Eberechi Eze's maybe one of his best skills is his brain. I think he is an incredibly intelligent footballer in the way he finds space and finds teammates. One of my favorite highlight clips of Eze from last season isn't a goal he scored. It's the little jumping back heel flick to Mateta in the box. Yeah. And it's 2 things. It's the tech, but it's the knowledge. He's back there. I know where he is, and I can instinctively find him. I think it's going to change things for us. And by the way, we have breaking news to a podcast, which is rare, but we'll take it, to put more egg on Tottenham's face. Tottenham were so slow in getting this deal done, they were prepared to let Eze play in the Conference League qualifier today for Crystal Palace, right? Eze was going to play in that. So we thought we'd have to wait through that game, cross our fingers. Breaking news, Eberechi Eze will not play for Crystal Palace in tonight's Conference League clash with move to Arsenal on the brink. That's the reporting. Whether it winds up being true or not, we'll see. But that's the breaking news, which means, by the way, the medical could happen, and he could be in the squad for Leeds. He could certainly be announced in time for the shirt sales on Saturday. I'm sure Arsenal don't want to miss out on that, but Spurs fans were prepared to let him play tonight. We were not prepared to let him play tonight because we are, and you can quote me on this, gargantuan. We are a big,
and not
proper
idiots.
Big club. Phil, what about you? There is a collection of people. There's a group of people in the Arsenal fandom. Let's call them the Misery Crew. The Misery Crew. I love you, Misery Crew. You know who you are. It's okay. Don't actually think Eze is the right signing for Arsenal. They think it's great for vibes. They think it's funny. They think he's a good player, but they're not as sure he's the right signing. And I think the thesis of that argument is he's not a left winger, which is the area everyone agrees we need to upgrade. He is more of a 10, which we don't particularly use. And we kind of have a logjam there between Odegaard, Ethan, maybe Max in the future, Declan Rice, Kai Havertz when he's fit, Mikel Merino. It's not an area that's just screaming opportunity. And then, so the argument goes a little further to say it will still be Nani Madueke or Martinelli or Leo starting on the left. It'll be Eze for times when we need a little more attacking oomph in midfield, but it will still be Zubi, Odegaard, and Rice starting in midfield. I have a different perspective, which I'll give in a moment, but I'm curious what your perspective on that is and where you see Eze's role in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why there are reservations about this deal. It's quite expensive. We're definitely giving him a good wage. And he doesn't really fit into what we've known under Mikel Arteta, which is a 4-3-3 system with specific players playing specific roles. I mean, the left back usually inverts, the left 8 crashes the box. We're quite right side heavy in terms of our play, which then isolates whoever we have on the left wing. It's all very carefully crafted, mechanical, and that's how we've done things. So I get it. but I just can't put myself in the headspace of where does he fit? Where will he play? He's not really a 10. He's not really a left winger, because I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, obviously other factors come into this, but I've had to sit through 18 months or 2 years of analysis about how this Arsenal team is boring, how Arteta is suppressing his attacking talent, why the squad lacks individualism, mavericks, freestylers, to make a real difference in the final third. You know, guys who are willing to go off-piste, break the mold, and really help us when it comes to deep blocks especially, or mid blocks. And I think he will play because he's good. He will play because he offers this current group qualities that they are lacking. And sometimes you've got to let yourselves feel. Eze is fun. Football is supposed to be fun. And I know we're at the highest level trying to win things, which I agree with. But you can't complain about not having any mavericks in your team and then turn your nose up at one of the most exciting, entertaining players in the league. You know, I need to watch more of Madueke, because maybe he can be someone like that for us. But I can confidently say right now, we've got one of those players in our squad, and that's Ricardo Calafiori. I think our defensive shape and structure can accommodate one more player. I promise. We're not going to collapse. We're not going to concede 4 goals every game.
This isn't wrapping me out, Phil. He works hard off the ball, too.
He does what we did it in the scouting video that we did last year. We saw him tracking back, making interceptions on that left side. And this could age horribly, of course. But I feel like we're so informed about everything these days that we analyze every transfer to like the microscopic details. We've got the stats, we've got the physical data, we analyze how they've performed previously, the heat maps come out, we're slaves to the green bars. All of that stuff is important, but you can allow yourself to get caught up in the romance of this story. Someone we let go at 13, who's had to work his way through the doldrums of English football to not only play for his country, but to sign for his club again 14 years later. I just think that's beautiful. It's really beautiful, and don't underestimate what that lift can give to the fans, because he's living our dream. You know, it's so mentally draining to be able to go again after 3 second place finishes, but this signing will be a much needed shot in the arm to some of the malaise I think that's been creeping into our collective psyche. It will give the group a huge lift as well, because they're all mates, they want to succeed with each other. But more than anything, Eze is a player I love to watch. He makes me feel things. He makes others feel things. And sometimes in football, you're allowed to feel, you know. And I just think, like the Aubameyang example you set earlier, there wasn't really a space for him in the squad. We had Giroud. At that moment, we had Lacazette, who we signed 6 months earlier for a lot of money. But he's a top-class player. So when they become available, you sign them and you figure out the rest afterwards. So I completely get the reservations, but we have enough structure and solidity in our squad to be able to accommodate someone who's a bit of a tweener, like Paul said, because it makes sense. I don't think he'll be playing on the left. I think he'll be playing from the left, you know, in a half space. He'll be drifting out wide. He'll be combining with people. He'll take shots from the edge of the box, where I think we've been pretty horrible over the last 2 years, to be honest. I think the sort of the D on the edge of the opposition box is a black hole for us. So I just think he gives this squad a lot, you know, positionally versatile, carrying shots. I'm really excited. This is a player I've loved for a long time. And, you know, sometimes you just have to let yourself go and enjoy transfers, you know?
Yeah, imagine that. I have some big thoughts on this, but Paul, you want to come back with a thesis of your own?
Yeah, I got a couple of quick TCs, right? The first one is...
Are you going to nail them to a church door?
Yes, and
Martin Luther?
Start a religion. Well, change a religion, not really start it.
Honestly, if there was a pod member that was going to start a religion, I think you would have gotten even odds that it would have been Paul of any of us. So this is the moment we've kind of expected to end.
It would have been very... I mean, Clive is actually the natural one for everybody to follow. I was listening to me pod yesterday.
Paul, he may have more acolytes, but I think you have the religion mapped out.
I'd have the better cult.
Let's hear it.
He's the more natural follower. The only problem is the cult followers for me would be very frustrated, because I kept changing my mind about what the cult was about, what we were all about, what we were worshipping.
Let's just say at the Union Chapel show this year, if you try to hand me a cup of Kool-Aid, I'm not drinking it.
Yeah, okay.
But carry on.
So, my theses, 2 quick ones. We didn't plan to do this because it wasn't in the budget. then we had a reason to rip up the budget. Because once this is seen, it can't be unseen, right? Like once you pick Eze in the starting lineup, you're like, oh, that's a lot of fun. And now every other starting lineup that it doesn't have Eze in it, everybody's going to go, oh, we don't have Eze in it. My bigger thesis is Arteta was talking coming into the summer and over the summer about how the squad just isn't big enough for modern football. And we as supporters have been drilled into a starting 11 and backup 11 and a little bit of rotation. And maybe football is now finally changed, at least at Arsenal, where the point is to have so many players looking to get in the lineup that the manager has headaches every week and starts picking horses for courses, who he's feeling that week, who's fittest. And like all of that's going to take care of itself because, I mean, I think it's pretty clear if you go back and listen to Ornstein's reporting and the reporting from Eze. Eze thought this probably wasn't going to happen or may well not have thought it was going to happen. And he was like, is Arsenal interested in me? Is Arteta interested in me? And now he's made a choice between a club who would have started him every week. In fact, he could have picked any position on the pitch. I'd like to play right wing. Sure, Eze. You can play wherever you want at Tottenham. Any spot on the pitch. To a club and a team that has lots of options in which he was not necessarily the guy we needed and have to go all out for, and he's going to have to compete for a spot. And yet he feels comfortable enough and confident enough that he's thinking, yeah, I'll nail down what's effectively a starting position. And we can see it, that now it's a start. Why weren't we all over this? I think it was outside of our budget business-wise. And we just had to do it because Havertz, and you can't, having spent that money, you got to spend the next bit of money. You can't wait till next season. You can't wait till January. It's got to be now. So I think that's the first part of it. And the second part of it is we shouldn't worry about where he plays because, to Phil's point, he's going to do really good things on the left-hand side. We saw Gyökeres running down the touchline, getting paint on his boots against United 2-3 times. Like, he loves that really wide slot. Eze loves coming inside, going into the left 8 slot, taking shots from that side. It's all going to work out very nicely, and we're going to wonder why we ever had to worry about it. He's going to look great. And I think he's going to be the guy to dislodge on the left-hand side.
So there are moments you say something into a microphone and you could potentially look really silly for saying them, or it could wind up looking right. And this is going to be one of those moments because I'm going to give you my perspective on this, and it could look really stupid as soon as a couple of weeks from now. But a few things. The first thing I want to tell you is just how I view Eze. One is, I think Eberechi Eze is our second best attacking player in the squad the minute he pulls the shirt on. I think it's Bukayo Saka than Eberechi Eze. Now, that is not a knock on Martin Odegaard, who I regard as one of the best midfielders in the world in terms of what he can do between the thirds, from moving the ball back to front, collecting the ball, work rate, pressing. But from an attacking standpoint, I don't think Martin Odegaard is quite at the level with his shooting or his creativity as Eze, and that is not a knock on Odegaard. Declan Rice, one of the best players in the world, full stop. But again, same argument. Victor Gyökeres, I rate, but I don't rate him at this level in terms of the tech, the finishing, the creativity. Nani Madueke is an athlete, an elite athlete who uses powerful running to create openings. I think that's important, of course, but I don't rate him at this level. And then Leo, Martinelli, again, back to my original point, Eberechi Eze, in my mind, is now the second best attacking player. We have the second best final third player we have at the club. And we need that. And he's going to play. So that's my first point. My second point is, I think people are overthinking this. Our weakest area is left wing, and he's going to play off the left, period. And he's going to start there and start there a lot. We have no shortage of athletes. Nani Madueke is a powerful athlete, but so is Bukayo Saka. Odegaard is athletic. Victor Gyökeres can run. Gabriel Martinelli is athletic. Declan Rice is an unparalleled athlete in terms of chewing up ground, running up and down the pitch. But we don't have the tech, as the kids say, that Eze has. We don't have an elegant dribble. Nani Madueke is a power dribbler. We have these powerful dribblers, even Martinelli, right, where their thing is they run hard at you. But Saka's different. He'll slow you down. He'll make you think. He's elegant. He thinks through how he's going to beat you. Explain to me why Eze isn't Saka. And I don't mean the same level. Saka's on a different level than anybody. But why can't he play from the left the way Saka plays from the right? Saka started at left wing back, for goodness sake. People have been saying Saka might be better as an interior. Saka's not, in my mind, the profile of a natural true winger. He's just fantastic out there. And Eze can do what Leo has done for us on the left, but at a higher level than Leo could ever do it. And by the way, I rate Leo very highly. I just don't see any kind of issue here at all. Calafiori plays everywhere. Declan Rice was raised as a central defender who now plays 8 for us, right? Mazu Iskelli's a midfielder who plays left back. Ethan Nwaneri was fantastic at right wing, having been a midfielder in his academy level. This idea that talented, intelligent players can't just slide one half space over and start their move from that half space over has been totally undermined by what we've done both with Saka and with Leo Trossard. So for me, Phil, a player who can create shots at an elite level, stop-start defenders, has the intelligence with his running and his transition creativity, and has a brilliant shot on him, just because he's got to stand 3 yards further left at the start of a move, I don't see why that's a problem. And even if Nani Madueke is fantastic, which he could be, there'll be room for him to play. But for me, this is a player whose talent demands being on the pitch, and I don't see why that can't be at left wing.
I agree. I think he could comfortably play on the left for us. And also, one of our biggest issues with Arteta and this system is that players are too fixed to their roles, too fixed to their zones, too fixed to their areas. So why do we have an issue now when we have someone who's willing to come in and combine, drift away from there? I know typically if you have a winger of this style on the left, you have an overlapping winger, more like a Kieran Tierney or a Nuno Tavares who can go beyond him. But it doesn't need to be that. He's just a good player who does good work in attacking areas. And we need to be more comfortable having good players. You know, even now it's like, is it going to stunt the development of Ethan? What about Max? Where does this person play? What about Martinelli and Trossard? Honestly, I don't care. I really, really don't care. The way I see it, the more good players we have, the better we will be. And it's up to them to fight for the shirt and who's going to start on the weekend. And the manager will know that. The manager will see that. And what we really need in particular is, first of all, more shots, which you alluded to earlier, which he brings. There is a nuance to his game in terms of how he slows down, speeds up, where he likes to travel with the ball. I don't think he's a Martinelli stretcher, for example, but he can easily go in behind. Palace play counter-attacking football. How often do you see him running beyond Mateta with Ismail Assar on the other side, even Munoz going down the right? This is something that he knows how to do. So if we do need to stretch the play, he's more than comfortable doing it. It doesn't need to be a Nico Williams rapid winger for us to be able to do that. It's more about timing, how you cover ground, where you run. Because I think if you looked at the rewatch, a lot of our running once we were in transition was really bad in terms of providing an option for the person on the ball. So it's just another attacking option that we've needed. And regardless of whether Havertz was injured or not, most people, if you asked most people, they would have said, can we do one more? Can we do one more? Whether it's a true winger, a two-sided winger, a wide forward that can play at centre forward, we needed something else. It just so happens we've done the groundwork on Eze. We've signed Eze now, and I think he won't have any issues settling into this team. Good players find a way, and you find a way to fit good players in, and that's just how I see it. I really can't put my head in that space where you're doubting the deal. You know, and I realize this could look very stupid, but it's just how I'm choosing to see it.
He's been one of the best players in the Premier League for a few seasons. And a couple of those seasons I get were with Olise, and you could say, well, he wasn't as influential without Olise. Well, first of all, yeah, you're not going to be as influential when you don't have as good players around you, but he's pretty influential in their run to an FA Cup. He did the thing that star players do. He won them the FA Cup. He really did. His goals and goal involvements on their run to the FA Cup won them an FA Cup. He's now going to be playing with the best collection of players he's ever played with. So, this is going to be a really exciting moment. I think we should nail some more colors to the mast. The mast is going to be full of colors. And then we do need to get onto the Kai stuff and Leeds and some stuff like that. But, Paul, I'm just going to ask you. I want you to predict his Premier League starts, his Premier League goals, and his Premier League... Sorry, not goals. His Premier League starts and his Premier League goals plus assists. Wow.
The numbers aren't going to add up here if I compared him to... I got everybody playing all the games. I would say he's going to have like 23 starts. Seems high. And yet, I think once seen, he won't be unseen.
Okay.
Goals.
Goals and assists. You can just do goals and assists.
Goals and assists.
So you said 23 starts, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
17, 18. 18. I'm going to go with 18.
18 goals and assists. That would be... I think we'd probably take that. Phil, what about you? Starts, goals, and assists.
I'm going to go 25 starts and 15 goals and assists.
Okay. I will say, and obviously all this is fitness dependent, I will say 30 starts and 21 goals and assists.
Take that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Once I tell you, I think he's our second best attacking player. And I don't know why you leave that guy on the bench. The other thing I will say is, too, there may be starts where you say, Odegaard's off it, or Odegaard's injured, and Rice moves right, and Odegaard and Eze plays left 8. You know, there may be games where Odegaard's just not having a great game, and he comes on from there, or he moves from the left wing to the 8, and we bring Nani on. I mean, there may be games where we finish a game with Saka, Gyökeres, Nani, Odegaard, and Eze. There's a lot of really exciting things we can do now.
It's a good point about Odegaard, because he essentially has the creative burden. With Bukayo Saka, he is the creative guy in our team. So not only are we helping him by supplementing him with another creative player, but we're also giving him a chance to sit down occasionally. Why not at home against a relegation battling team? Can we play all of them? Can we not do a 4-1-4-1 and put Zubimendi or Rice as the holder and just let all of the attacking guys go on? We don't need to be wedded to this 4-3-3 all the time. We don't always need a box crasher. We can mix things up. And think of the Man City teams that sort of destroyed us over the past few years. They had a midfield 3 of Gundogan, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. Would you class that as a traditional midfield 3 in England?
Mm-mm.
But they're all really good players. So they won games.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think we just need to open our minds a little bit.
There is one rule I believe more than anything else in football, and that is that by and large, the best talent wins the most games. And this is one of the elite talents in the Premier League. So I want to get a rating of the window from you guys too, a little bit on the owner's backing, and then we've got to talk about the Kai injury. But I do feel a little bit of a sense of responsibility to the listener who now has no idea what VPN to use. That's not right. Is that right? We just talk about Eze the whole pod and we don't talk about what VPN to use? The football season is well and truly upon us, and you need a VPN so that you can watch your football when you're traveling, so you can watch those geolock videos. What if you went to click on the funniest possible Spurs reaction video to the Eze news, and as you're trying to click on it, it says not available in your area? Heartbreaking. I don't want you to feel heartbroken in this moment of unbridled joy. That wouldn't be right. So you're going to use NordVPN. You're going to go to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. You're going to get a huge discount off your Nord plan and 4 months on top. That's pretty wild. But you know what's more wild? That you're going to get the ability to access anything you want around the world, because nothing will be geo-locked anymore. That's right. You put Nord on your iPhone, on your iPad, on your Mac, on your PC, on your Google phone, on your Android device. Doesn't matter. You put Nord on the device, you tell it where you want to browse, and boom, you're browsing there. That's it. That's simple. That's what you do. And once you do that, you also have threat protection, because Nord has world-class threat protection, so that when you go on those dodgy links, you know the ones I'm talking about. It's a big part of being a football fan. From time to time, you got to do it. But now you can do it in safety. So nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now, Phil. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Not it. Paul, rate the window out of 10.
9.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is the half you're leaving based on outgoings that never materialized, or is it more that you still think there's an incoming that could have been more what we need? Like what's the half point that we're being docked?
I have higher standards than you, Elliot. I'm not going to 10.
I think that would be hard not to have. Yep.
Yep. I'm not Oh, by the way, I'm not rating our outgoings. That'd be a whole other score.
Yeah.
We don't really have any. So
No. We've gotten $3 million for Carl Hein. There you go.
Very good.
Tell
Well done,
Rodrigo
everybody.
we're on the way.
Yeah.
Warm up the plane, Florentino. We got some money. we get the plane halfway there, and then we've run out of that money on the fuel. But that's okay.
We got
Can
your
even get to
Starbucks
the
bill
runway
covered.
with that, yeah.
So yeah, 9.5 on the window, 9.5 from the backing of the club. Probably close to 10 actually, in terms of how the club has any more than this, and I'd be a bit worried about what's going on there. So fair play to them recently. Don't get me wrong, I've still got the pitchfork and the placard ready to go for when they turn on us. But last few years, you can't really fault their willingness to go big on players or windows. It is interesting that there's this 4-year cycle in a lot of things: economics, stock market, this, that, the other. It feels like a 4-year market here, a 4-year cycle here, where we bought 6 players 4 years ago. We bought 6 players already with Eze. It'd be 7, but one of them's a backup goalkeeper. No offense meant. Those are important and all, but not quite a 6 players who are going to play a lot for you during the season. So this is 4 years later. It feels cyclical that we've gone big again. This is the next big push, the next big wave. Clearly, we already know it's a win this season type approach. And they've gone big. And when we had a blip with Havertz, they did not hesitate. And suddenly they went big and spent 67.5 million or something here with add-ons, and went for it. So what can you say? And there's the players and there's the vibe, and they managed to leverage the vibe, crank it up, and do the ultimate kind of Sol Campbell tribute with Eze. So yeah, can't really fault them.
Yeah, I would say this. I did a pod with Tim just yesterday before any of this news broke, and I said the dooming around this window and calling it a 2 out of 10 because we've left one position slightly underpowered felt ridiculous to me. Any way you look at it, and I said this back as early as April, so I have to say it again. I didn't care which striker we bought as long as we had one we identified as the right target and went for it. So we got Mascara, Kepa, Zubi, Gyökeres, Nani Madueke, right? Important players across the board. Norgard. We filled 2 important midfield spots, one with a midfielder who is sought after by every big club in the world, the most prolific striker in all of Europe. We got a winger who was probably Chelsea's best wide player last season to cover Saka and play off the left where we needed to strengthen. We got one of the brightest backup defenders in Europe, in my mind, in Mascara, while Liverpool are looking at huge money acquisition to try to pry Guehi away from Palace, which now may be harder because Palace is going to have a lot more money in their pocket and may be less inclined to sell. We've left ourselves with very few holes, but the one hole was a little more creativity, a little more goal-scoring oomph, that joker in the pack, and now we have that. And oh, by the way, it's the vibes lifter of all vibes lifter, a player we all wanted. For me, it's a 10 out of 10, and if you don't see it that way, maybe that's because you don't regard Eze as a left wing. I do, so that will do it. But, Phil, I have it as a 10 out of 10. All the areas in need addressed, and addressed with the one cherry on top, which is the player I've most wanted from the league over several years. So for me personally, I love it. I think it is also, to Paul's point, an astonishing backing by the owners, because I don't for a minute think KSE sit around obsessing about whether Arsenal win trophies. They'd like us to be competitive, sure, but they said you don't buy these teams for that purpose. And if you look around the league and look at some of the sales our rivals have made, candidly, there's just been better business done by our rivals in terms of their ability to generate cash from player trading. We have not done that. We have not moved Vieira yet. We have not moved Sambi Lakanga yet. We have not moved Kivior yet. We have not moved Zinchenko yet. We have not moved Martinelli or Leo, and in fact given Leo more money. And now we're going with our hands out saying we need £68 million for Eberechi Eze, and we need it right now, and we need a lot of the money up front. And they said, okay, here it is. Not who are you going to sell or how are you going to execute on getting money in. So look, nobody likes to hear the hooray, the billionaires spent a little money. I'm not trying to lionize them. I'm simply saying they would have probably been within their right to say, nah, I don't think we balanced the books appropriately. There's been a lot of reporting saying they want Arsenal run more efficiently, right? More self-sustainably. And this summer does not seem to indicate that. So again, just so we're clear, I'm not celebrating people who have limitless money investing, but I'm saying they didn't have to, and we've been fortunate that they have in light of the lack of outgoing. So 10 out of 10 for me, and I think at least a slight, let's call it a attaboy to ownership for letting us go for this one last big move. What about you?
I'm going to go 9. I think for me, a true 10 would have been an elite centre forward, and that would have been Alexander Isak.
Interesting.
And that's no slight on Victor Gyökeres. I'm very happy with him, and that we've gone for him, and that we were decisive in doing that. But a 10 out of 10 is like faultless, right? And I don't think it's been faultless. So
can I stop you for a question though, and just ask you a question about that? Yes. Would you have been comfortable if we were sitting here currently with no striker trying to get Isak done? Like, do you regard the risk-reward profile of going for Isak and maybe missing and not getting what you need worth it? Or do you think it would have been too big? Or set the money aside, because you could argue if we got Isak, we could not have done all the other deals. Set that aside, just the risk-reward profile. Would you regard the risk of not getting a striker worth it to try to make Isak possible? Or do you think it was correct to go for what was doable and have all of this stuff done now? Which approach would you have preferred?
If there was a way to get Isak into the club, I would have tried to get him in. But I don't have any issue with what we've done now, which is basically creating more danger, more goals, more carries, more speed. I think we've done that really well. I like the profiles we've brought in. But if there was any way to have signed Isak, I would have liked Arsenal to explore that. And if they could bring him in, I think I can't say all that stuff about Eze and good players being comfortable with good players and all of that stuff and then not want to go for Isak. So that would have made it a 10 for me, but it depends at what cost. Because if we spent 150 million on Isak and didn't sign a wide player and didn't sign the number 10, then obviously not. But if there was a way to maybe get one plus Isak, then I would have done that. But obviously we're finding out that this is a very difficult and drawn out situation. So I have no issues with what the club did. Just from a purely talent perspective, it's a 9 for me, which is still incredibly high, by the way.
No, that's actually, it's a great point and totally fair point. I was just curious if you think that the 10 was essentially doable in the context of the order of operations and how it would have had to happen. So
can I ask a question? What score would we have given it without Eze?
I literally recorded a pod yesterday morning where I said this, so I can't change my opinion now. I would have given it a 7 out of 10 because I would have said it's all the key areas of need addressed, and I think addressed pretty effectively without the one nagging area of need, that one nagging issue, right? That extra drip of creativity, that extra left-wing dynamism, that extra attacking midfield creative player is not in there, and that could hold us back. And the irony, of course, with Eze is, as I've already stated, I think he can fill the left-wing position and also be the attacking midfielder that we sometimes need but don't have. So, yeah, I had it as a 7 out of 10. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, probably a 7, but kind of a 7 minus because while you say nagging, it's almost glaring.
Fair.
That something needed to be done on the left. Like, I kind of think, what would a good opponent, what would PSG think about our lineup when we come up against them? They'd be like, world-class goalkeeper, world-class defense, world-class midfield, world-class right, top-level striker. Oh, we'll be okay on the left-hand side. That we can handle.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? I think PSG are a great example because their Ballon d'Or winning star player is their striker who's never been a striker until they played him at striker. I just think positions are fungible if you're smart and if you're talented. Ousmane Dembele is not a striker, but it turns out, oh yeah, he is a striker. The other thing is, if you look at some of the best teams in the world, like PSG, they don't have a dime-dropping 10. That's not what their midfield does, right? They let that creative influence come from other areas and the intelligence of their forward players. So I think there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. Phil, I think we should move on from this. So you've gone 9. I'm fine with that. I think that's good. We can move on from that. Let's talk about the negative news from yesterday, the Kai Havertz injury. And I think there's a number of angles that this needs to be addressed from. The most obvious of which is just, first of all, the news. He has some kind of knee injury. We don't know exactly what. I have heard from the people that tell me stuff on WhatsApp and in DMs that it could be around a 12-weeker, right? 3 months. So you're looking at September, October, November, back early December-ish timeframe. Not good, but not as bad as some of the rumors, which are ACL, and that's the end of his season, right? I've not seen Arsenal be good. That's hyperbole. I've not seen Arsenal be great at any point in the last 2 seasons when Kai Havertz wasn't playing. So whatever your evaluation of the player, a great Arsenal the last couple of seasons has involved Kai Havertz playing striker. Now, we just so happen to have a new striker, and maybe that would be fine. We will miss Kai. There's no construction of this where we don't miss Kai. But, Phil, I'm curious, in light of what we have at our disposal now, how you regard the significance of this injury and what we might do in his absence.
Yeah, it's bad news for Havertz, first of all, having worked so hard to get fit over the summer, consuming his body weight in creatine on a daily basis. But it's also bad news for us because, like you said, regardless of what you think of him, we have played some of our best football under Arteta with Havertz leading the line, or even in midfield on occasion. And if we have genuine hopes of competing for the league and for the Champions League, we need him available. And obviously, we're still in the dark about how serious the injury is, so I'm not going to go too doom and gloom without the relevant information. But even if it's not that serious for a knee injury, we'll still miss him because I like the fact that we had both him and Gyökeres to suit different days and game states. We've seen how the both of them play differently. We can play differently with them. We can play with both of them. So it gives us options, gives us a bit of variety, and now one of those options is gone. So from a Havertz perspective, it's really awful, and I feel sorry for him because it's just not what you need at the start of a year, especially when you've spent the last 4 months coming back from an injury or hamstring surgery. But I do think it's a good thing maybe for Gyökeres now to feel like the guy. And I think Tim made the point, you made the point yesterday in the Patreon pod, there might have been a lengthening of his transition period and that he would play some games, sit on the bench for others, come on for half an hour in some games, get some cup appearances as well. But now we don't really have that luxury. So he needs to learn and he needs to adapt and quickly. And I think for him, that's the best possible thing because he'll be playing every game. We need to learn to play with him. We need to know how to platform him. And I think you can see it happening slowly. I don't think we're the best team in transition by any means. And I think you can see that in some of our play over preseason and also at Old Trafford, which was just really, really bad in terms of final ball execution, things like that. But we are looking more open to not having to play 100 passes before we shoot, which is good. So it's really bad. I'm a fan of Kai Havertz. I think he gives us a lot, but if we do need to play without him for a little while, we're just going to have to pull our sleeves up, learn how to play with Gyökeres. I think it's a really good thing for him that he has that freedom and the ability to play and make mistakes without someone breathing down his neck. I think Mikel Merino can play there if needed. Even Leandro Trossard can play there if needed. Mikel has spoken about Ethan playing there. So we have options, and it's why I'm glad that we didn't go for a centre-forward to replace Havertz, because we would have just had too many afterwards once he came back to fitness. So I think it was the right thing to do to get someone a bit more, either a bit more typical wide player or a number 10-y player, which we did with Eze. So yeah, it's a shame, but I think there are silver linings we can take from it. And as long as we can supplement some goals and assists in other ways, we should be able to get by without him, although I'd much rather have him in the team, obviously.
Yeah. So first thing first, I just said how important Kai is, so please don't take this as undermining that point, but we signed a proper striker this summer. If you have any belief that we signed the right guy, him playing a lot now, Phil, and you just said this, is great. It's not great that Kai is injured. It's great that our new striker plays a lot and our team learns to play with him. Because I do think, as good as Kai has been, Kai is a tweener player, and I think he can lead the line, and I think he can do really good things from there. But in terms of doing some running and doing some goal scoring in ways that we have not been able to do in the past, Gyökeres can do it differently. And, God forbid if we do need someone who just stands there stiff as a board but can kick the ball in the back of the net and bounce passes to people, we've still got Mikel Merino in the team. Leo Trossard's also a false nine. So we've got some options. It's not good at all. I do think Gyökeres knowing the position is his for a while just means he can concentrate on playing his football. He's Arsenal's striker for the next 3 months at least. And by that time, look, we bought a 27-year-old. You don't get a season to bet in. You got these 3 months now. Go prove that the position's yours, and I hope that's what I do. By the way, I think the hardest thing for me with this news is just the bad vibes from last season coming flooding back, right? The one thing we all thought is, just give us a little injury luck and we can maybe do this thing. Just give us a little injury luck. And so to get something this bad this early just felt like, it's like that movie, The Perfect Storm, where they think they're going to get out of it, and then he looks up at the sky and says, it's not going to let us out. And that's how I feel a little bit. Like, is Mikel going to get the luck? Is his team going to get the luck where it can at least go show whether it's good enough? And this felt so bad from that standpoint. So hopefully it's not the worst case news. I will say, by the way, Liverpool suffering some injury news of their own. It looks like Jeremy Frimpong is out for a month, so he will not play against us in our game at Anfield, for better or for worse. Paul, your take on the Kai injury, the knock-on effect for Gyökeres, and anything else about it that strikes you?
Yeah, look, the positives would be there's maybe a little more clarity in terms of who'll be leading the line and what we need to lean into. And in practice, they're going to know what plan A is. So that's part of it. It makes life a little simpler for Gyökeres coming into the club and kind of settling into the role and everybody knowing what the plan is week in, week out. The other positive is, and maybe this is copium, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but 12 weeks, you say. We're looking at 12 weeks, and I'm looking at the international interlull calendar. We have 6 weeks of interlulls, if I'm reading it right. Phil, you can correct me. But September, 1 to 9, October, 6 to 14, November, 10 to 18. We might have the best part of 6 of 12 weeks being interlulls, and or at least a very, very good chunk of that. So, in a way, he's missing 6 weeks. And
yeah, I mean, with our hard start, obviously, like you wouldn't want to go into battle against City and Liverpool and Newcastle without you would not. Kai if you could avoid it.
You'd want him off the bench. Don't get me wrong, but 12 weeks, if I've got it right, 12 weeks could collapse to 6 weeks in terms of footballing time. But yeah, of course we want him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think it's again, not a positive, but do you think it's a chance for Gyökeres to just get the feel of playing in this league week in, week out and leading the line for Arsenal in some instances every 3 days? Or do you think it's important that we not overburden him?
No, I think like this is, he'd be licking his lips that it's clear that we know what we're training for during the week between games. Everybody knows the plan. There will be movable pieces with Eze or whoever on the left, with our options in midfield, but they'll all know, like, it all comes to a point, and you kind of need to know what that point is. I mean, City don't alternate Haaland and not Haaland. That's two very different ways of playing. And I do note here that Odegaard plays with Haaland in the Norwegian team, so he's quite used to finding a striker, a Scandinavian striker. So now that everybody has the map as to what you're aiming at, getting the ball to the striker, it's very simple to know what we're going to be focusing on in training for the next 6-12 weeks to get really, really good at that. And then Havertz comes back. We already know how to play like that, and we can alternate between different styles and approaches. Havertz can come in and play a second striker at times. So ideally, you want Havertz around. You want him off the bench. You want options. We'll get to 2 games a week, all that good stuff. But apart from, you raise a good point. We're playing some of our toughest fixtures, but we probably want to start those games with the Gyökeres, really, in any case. So it is what it is. We have to make the most of it, but the most of it could be pretty good. And if it is 12 weeks, maybe it's really more like 6 weeks.
Yeah, any final thoughts on this, Phil, before we turn our attentions a bit to the Leeds game before getting out of here?
No, I think we've kind of covered everything. It's just the transfer window is always difficult mentally as a fan, because you're always in that space of what if. Can we do something late on? Have we done enough? But I think once it's closed, once we know more or less the prognosis of what's happening with Havertz, we can look at the season a lot more clearly, with a lot more clarity. But I think yesterday has sort of finished things off for us, and now we can look ahead for the rest of the season. So a big shame to lose him, but it's not like we haven't got anybody there who can pick up the slack. So we'll welcome him back with open arms when he's ready.
Do you worry at all about squad harmony? As I look at it, with Eze's arrival, and granted Kai's departure for injury means it won't be as much of an issue imminently, but we do have a situation, as Mikel called out before the United game, where good players who expect to play, not only won't play, they won't be dressed. And it is hard to keep players happy. We've tried to keep Leo happy by just giving him more money to stay. And regardless of my opinion of that, he's now making more money to stay. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's the occasional match day he isn't dressed for. And if it's not him, then it's going to be Martinelli, or it's going to be an Ethan Nwaneri who just committed his future to the club. We want Max Dowman to get chances. Are you going to leave Mikel Merino out of the squad to make room for Max Dowman? Those are the kind of choices confronting us. So as much as we want 2 for every position, I've always said on this pod, 2 for every position is not exactly realistic. And a big squad can sometimes wind up being worse for 2 reasons. 1, it falls apart from a harmony standpoint. And 2, you never really settle on the group that is the group. I think the teams that win everything tend to have a group of like 15 players, not 24. You know what I mean? So do you have any concern about that the squad feels a bit bloated at the moment?
Oh, it's certainly bloated, but that is because we haven't sold the people that we need to sell.
Yeah, by the way, I don't even mean Vieira and Sambi and Zinchenko. I mean like core players who now are on the fringes,
Players are not dumb, right? They'll know they're standing in the squad, then they'll know who's ahead of them, they'll know who they're competing with, they'll know why they're not making matchday squads. And I don't think Arteta is the type of person to shy away from those conversations. I think he's a very honest guy. He likes to uphold high standards. He likes to tell people when they're performing well. He likes to tell them when they're not. So if that is going to be a risk, or if that's going to be a risk factor of being at the club, that you might occasionally be left out of a matchday squad, then you either leave or you accept it. So keeping players happy is a very delicate balance. I think, if you're a manager, the dressing room is 70% of your role. Right, you need to keep players happy. You need to keep the squad in a good level with harmony, and whatever shape they need to be in mentally to perform at the highest level. But if you are a Norgard, if you are a Mikel Merino, if you are a Trossard, I think you might just have to accept that occasionally you will be left out, and it's up to you to force yourself into that squad. Even an Ethan. The club have shown a lot of faith in him by giving him a 5-year deal. They're now earmarking him for a central role. But you need to prove to people that you're worth it. And the way you do that is by performing when you get opportunities. So it's a cycle. And, even Man City, how much did they spend in January? 200 million, the best part of? How many matchday squads was Kusanov left out of? How many matchday squads was Nico Gonzalez left out of? If you're not at the level, you don't get in, you don't play. So it's for me, instead of offering people more money to keep them happy, they should be using the potential absence in a matchday squad to just play better, to perform better. And that's how I see it. I think everyone in the squad now is mostly signed up with a lot of faith behind them. So I just think they're not dumb. They'll know what they need to do. They will have had those conversations. But for sure, some people will miss out occasionally, and it's up to them to get back in.
Yep. Well said. Paul, any thoughts on how we'll line up for Leeds? Do you think there'll be any changes? I could see Leo coming in, assuming he's fit. I still think it'll be Calafiori, because I think what he did was important and interesting. But it could be Miles. I could see Timber coming in for Ben White. So a few changes possible. What do you think?
So I think Timber and Calafiori make sense for this game. White seemed to have a bit of a niggle maybe towards the end of the last game, so maybe it's Timber up next. From an attacking standpoint, probably Leo. Just a little bit more of the... Well, what about Eze? I mean, can't he play this weekend?
He'll need to have been registered by 12 p.m. tomorrow. So I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Is it?
I think it's possible. But I don't think he would start either way. So
yeah. But
I mean, and when I say possible, I mean remote. But I think it's possible, but unlikely.
Because this would be a good game for them. So what I understand about our Leeds counterparts is they've gone for size and bulk. They're more control-y 4-3-3, not as expansive as they were in the Championship because they've done that thing before. They actually want to stay up this time. So they got a lot of physical size. They got a new striker in from Lille, which I don't know too much about. I'm sure Phil does. They brought in a left back, a Mr. Goodmanson. They spent the money on that guy. He was 5 million more expensive than Badmunson. So they're obviously taking it very seriously. So I think they're going to be the classic sit back at the Emirates, tough test, sitting in, hanging in there, and they will test the Gyökeres proposition, which is why I'd love to have Eze at least off the bench if we can get him. Because it could be one of those where we're struggling. If we don't get the set piece goal, we're starting to struggle to kind of move it around. It'll be a good test for Zubimendi as well, switching the sides, picking which way to go, where to the kind of the two chess moves ahead kind of thing. It's definitely a very good test for what the challenges of our season. Gyökeres maybe had a tough time against De Ligt in his first game, and I've seen a lot of reviews about how he wasn't physical against the Premier League defenders against De Ligt, but again, pancake, throw that one away. Give the guy a chance to settle in, get comfortable. But this will be a good test of the Gyökeres proposition against the Oaks of the centre-backs of the Premier League, minnows who defend in depth and crowd the penalty box.
Some bad news for Leeds. Ampadu, who plays in the center of their midfield and is very important for them, has suffered an MCL injury and will be out until after the international break, so he will miss. I just really, really pray Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't play, because I've never seen our center backs have a good game against him. Of all the players,
really,
he's the one that troubles them. Yeah, he's been amazing against us. Saliba and Gabriel have been pretty much brutalized by him. I'd say, I don't want to say their careers were ended by him, because obviously they're still playing, but essentially they've never been regarded the same way. I'm kidding, but no, I'm not kidding about. I'm giving it a little more stick, but I actually think he has been one of the toughest challenges for them that I've seen them face. They've really struggled against him, and obviously he's at Leeds now. Farke said he's getting towards fitness. I think he'll be tempted to start him, but I don't know if he will. It certainly gives them an out ball. That's the other thing about it. It is a really easy way for them to get an exit. Now, to your point, Paul, you said you expect them to sit back. What's interesting, Phil, against Everton, who they dominated, absolutely dominated. They just struggled to find the breakthrough, and then it was gifted to them with a soft handball penalty. They pressed like mad. They were very pressy. If they press us, which I hope they do, this will be a very easy day for us. I just don't think they will.
Don't say that.
I'm saying if they press us. There's no way in the world, especially missing one of their starting midfield pieces, that Leeds are going to be able to press us at the Emirates and survive that. It just gives us too much space to exploit, in my mind. And I realize that could look very silly, but if you said to me, which am I more scared of, Leeds pressing us at the Emirates or Leeds sitting back and forcing us to find the way through, one is the clear answer. So what do you expect? And from a lineup standpoint, I think, again, the decisions, Timber or White, Calafiori or Miles, Leo or Martinelli or Nani, could be Nani. What do you think?
I think Leo might get the nod for this one, because my opinion is that Leeds will sit back a little bit. Obviously, they did go for it at home against Everton, but you need to look at the context around that game. Match day 1, opening night, Monday Night Football. Fans were up for it, players were up for it, and they maybe would have viewed Everton as a peer, as opposed to being an underdog, which is what they will be on Saturday. So I think what they'll try to do is just crowd the central areas. They'll try to crowd the wide areas, and then look for Dan James and Nonto in behind. They signed Noah Okafor as well, who's a pacey front man, coming from AC Milan. So that gives them an option. I think Joel Piroux is more, I want to drop deep and link. So whether they have Calvert-Lewin playing or Okafor, they've got options. But I can't really imagine they'll come here and press because it's very risky. And I'm sort of hoping they don't, because it's a good test for us. A lot of the focus this preseason has been about how we manage in transition, especially offensively. We're having to adapt to Gyökeres. He can't really do the back to goal stuff, even though we saw a little bit of it against Athletic Club. But I'm really curious to see how we face this first test if they do sit back, because as Paul said, they've got a couple of trees at the back in Pascal Struijk, Joe Rodon. They'll head everything away. So do we have a bit more in terms of creativity, in terms of our link play, how we get through a stubborn defence, than just looking for transitional moments all the time? So I think we saw a little bit of the transitional stuff at Old Trafford. Can we be a bit more neat and tidy against Leeds at home? Do we want to be brave and play a more attacking formation with a more offensive 8? I don't think so, but let's see. But yeah, in terms of the main questions about who plays, you're right. It's the left winger and both fullbacks. I think they'll stay as they are, the fullbacks. I think it will be Calafiori and White, but I could see Leo coming in for Martinelli.
The biggest fear I have, and I don't even want to breathe it into existence, but they have this guy, Anton Stock, right? And he has
good player,
a cannon of a right foot on him, an accurate, powerful shot from outside the box. And I just don't, I don't want one of these guy making a name for himself from 25 yards out against Arsenal things. All I can say is Zubi.
Don't worry, it's usually the goalkeepers, not the midfielders. So.
Okay, well, don't give that guy space to line up a shot from outside the box. That's all I'm saying. We've been going a while. I think we can leave it there. We'll have a Friday Night Clive tomorrow, and it'll be a bit of an Eze fest. We'll have some clips lined up that we'll watch together, and join us for the intro music, because I really like it. But yeah, other than that, we should be good. So big game. Look, the one thing that can bring down transfer hype is the football. So let's see a good performance. I think if we show the best of ourselves against Leeds and we produce a good attacking display combined with what's just happened in the market, it's going to be a really good feeling going into Anfield. And that's where we want to be. So
why do people get so hung up on the football? I mean, when you think about it, it's only like 90 minutes once or twice a week. Most of the time at the club is not during the game. And
that's true.
I think we're a great club. I think we do really well all the rest of the time. And we do quite well sometimes with the 90 minutes too.
It's a really great perspective. Thanks for bringing that to us. Paul, always a pleasure to talk to you.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, man. Soak it up. Soak up the Eze-ness, because it's very fun.
It is very fun. It's been very fun for me. I hope it's been very fun for you. I'm sure it has. We're going to have a good season, everybody. Strap in. Going to be great. We love you.
Strap on.
No.
Strap in. Strap in. Is that what the young people say?
That's for the Patreon, Paul.
Yeah. Okay. Boy. Sorry. It's not even for that.
Control. We love you. We'll talk to you after Arsenal 10 Leeds now.